Welcome back to Behind the Hero. Tonight's heroes are the duo who recently restored peace and order to our galaxy, Ratchet and Clank. So, gentlemen, tell us about your latest incredible adventures.
The last Lombax in his universe and the defective warbot with the soul of the Zoni, Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet, an orphaned mechanic, grew up on the planet Veldin where he lived a pretty normal and uneventful life. It wasn't until one fateful night when a robot on the run crash-landed not far from Ratchet's workshop. The little guy introduced himself as the designation XJ0461, but that's a bit of a mouthful, so Ratchet decided to name him Clank, which he took an immediate liking to. At Clank's behest, Ratchet would accompany him on a journey to save the galaxy from imminent doom, and after succeeding, they found themselves to be pretty good at it, saving galaxy after galaxy from any threat that stepped forward, becoming intergalactic celebrities known the universe over. But there's still one universe where they've yet to make their debut. I'm of course talking about the universe of Super Smash Bros. So getting right into things, Ratchet and Clank together would be a pretty average weight mid-class fighter. They'd have a combined 3 jumps, with Clank supplying the 3rd jump thanks to his installed helipack, and Ratchet would be able to wall jump. So real quickly, to get this out of the way, I'm well aware of Ratchet and Clank's inclusion in the game PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and I'm sure many folks out there would just tell me to copy that game and call it a day. Well, those guys are lame, and since Ratchet is the first character I'm covering who appeared in that game, not counting Dante, Anyway, I went ahead and decided that, in the future, if I cover a character who also made an appearance in PlayStation All-Stars, I will not be using that game as a reference at all. I won't even look at the game. I'll only use their original source games when building these Smash concepts, just as an added challenge for myself. So if you happen to see any moves here that are similar to what the characters have in All-Stars, that is just a coincidence, but it is more likely because they came from the same source material after all. Though I should mention that it really wasn't much of a challenge for Ratchet anyways. Out of all the PlayStation mascots, he has some of the highest number of games. There was plenty to pull from. Of course, across all those games, he has been pretty consistent with how he fights and with what weapons he uses. And that includes his signature multi-purpose tool for both fixing machines and smashing skulls, his Omni Wrench, which is what he'll be using for his jab, using the same 3-hit combo attack that he's used in just about every single game to make for an ideal 3-hit jab. He swings his wrench to the left, then back to the right, then ends with a quick spin to swing it to the right again. For his dash attack, I've decided to give him a classic, Gadgetron's Walloper. It's a boxing glove-like weapon that allows its wearer to punch with bursts of high-energy propulsion. So for Smash, it'll have Ratchet punch forward for a quick yet strong strike that knocks away anyone within arm-swinging distance. It does have a bit of end lag though, so be mindful of that. The side tilt can have Ratchet use another one of his signature Omni Wrench techniques, the Comet Strike. This has Ratchet throw his wrench like a boomerang, causing it to fly forwards a set distance before it returns back to Ratchet's hand. This is a fantastic disjointed attack that will force opponents to stay on their toes. However, Ratchet can't move while the wrench is out of his hand. And while it is fairly quick to return to him, and it'll return even sooner if it hits something, it can leave Ratchet vulnerable. So again, be mindful. The up tilt can be an innovative attack that has Ratchet simply swing his wrench overhead from front to back, a decently disjointed anti-air option. And his down tilt can have him slam his Omni Wrench on the ground in front of himself, another decently disjointed move that can give Ratchet a little bit of extra poke pressure or potentially be mean to opponents trying to reach the ledge. Now starting with Ratchet's side smash, this can be where he starts upping his arsenal and brings out the danger that he's packing in his pockets. For his side smash, he busts out the Enforcer, a huge gun that will destroy anyone hit by its large loads. The The Enforcer is a type of shotgun. It fires straight forwards, and its shots spread out the further they fly, able to cover more vertical space the further it goes, but the damage also drops off as well. So as to be expected of shotguns, the closer you are to the shaft, the more effective it will be. For Ratchet's up special, he brings out the heavy artillery, the powerful rocket launcher called the Warmonger. He fires a rocket projectile from it into the air slightly forward. It travels far, fast, and it explodes after it either reaches its climax or if it hits something or a very, very unlucky someone. Getting hit by the explosion only kind of acts as a sour spot, whereas getting hit directly by the rocket will hurt. And for Ratchet's down smash, he could use the bomb-spawning glove called the Fusion Grenade, though he will be using it in a rather unique way. Ratchet will quickly jump and toss a bomb directly underneath himself, which explodes as soon as it hits the ground. But once that happens, 2 shrapnel bombs will split off out of the explosion and both land to the sides, each exploding as soon as they hit something, whether that be stage or skin. The first explosion is the most powerful, but foes have to be really close in order to get hit by that, so more often than not, it will be the 2 weaker split-off bombs that will be putting in the most work. But don't worry, they are plenty strong in their own right, so they can still get the job done. For Ratchet's neutral air, he can pull out his Buzzblade weapon and start firing a ton of small blades that immediately circle all around the Lombax. For launching opponents, it's pretty lackluster. The Buzzblade's true strength comes from how much damage they can rack up in a short amount of time, dealing a lot of small flinching damage to opponents who thought about trying to stick their finger in. The forward air can be a horizontal wrench swing, simple but reliable. The back air can be the first attack that finally gets Clank involved. Clank is normally just Ratchet's backup, literally. He leaves most of the fighting to Ratchet, usually reserving himself to being Ratchet's mobility options or to handle more complicated matters. But that's not to say that Clank hasn't helped with dispatching enemies in the past, and for this back air, Clank will utilize an upgrade that he can get in the game going commando, the Clank Zapper. This will have Clank literally watch Ratchet's back and fire lasers from his eyes, launching away anyone foolish enough to try to sneak in a sucker punch. Sorry, Sly, maybe some other time. For the up air, this could also have Clank help out, utilizing his helipack in a more offensive way than usual, quickly dispensing the helicopter blades from his head which spin over Ratchet's head, dealing multi-hitting damage to anyone directly above the duo before launching them into orbit. And for the down air, Ratchet can use his final signature Omni-Wrench attack, the Hyper Strike. This has Ratchet quickly fall with his wrench held forward, slamming it into the ground with all of his might. Foes hit by the wrench at all as he falls will be spiked, and if they're hit by the wrench once it hits the ground, they'll take a lot more damage than usual as they're launched away forward. The biggest downside to this move though is that using it with no ground below you will result in automatic regret. Ratchet will grab opponents with his trusty Swing Shot, which is also capable of tether recovery and being an additional aerial attack. He'll pummel foes by whacking them with his wrench. For the forward throw, he'll spin around a single time with the foe latched to his wrench, then toss them forward once he completes the spin. The back throw can have Ratchet toss the foe behind his back, leading to Clank jumping off and using one of his super secret agent Clank kicks on the foe to launch them backward. The up throw can have Ratchet toss the foe above his head, leading to Clank dispensing his helipack copter to rack up damage on them, then blow them into the air. And the down throw can be a reference to crank turning, a common occurrence in their games where Ratchet uses his wrench to turn cranks so that he can activate mechanisms. Here, Ratchet will latch his wrench onto the foe and quickly run circles around them, causing the foe to literally be screwed into the ground and be buried as a result. For Ratchet and Clank's neutral special, Ratchet utilizes his Burst Pistol. Pistols are a common type of weapon that Ratchet will bust out to chew through enemies bit by bit. For this moveset, the Burst Pistol will be what upholds the spirit of the Ratchet and Clank shooter gameplay style. Tapping the special button has Ratchet fire a single shot straight forward, with each shot only dealing small flinching damage. If you hold the button down, Ratchet will rapid fire the pistol shots, so you can get a lot more out, but they are slightly weaker than the single shots fired from tapping the button, plus they deal no hit stun after flying a certain distance. While you hold the button down though, you are able to strafe with it, capable of walking forward or backward as you fire. You can even use all 3 of your jumps while firing as well. It's pretty much Ratchet's go-to neutral option, used to poke at opponents who might be trying to space you a little too hard. For Ratchet's side special, who's ready for some target practice? Cause he's busting out the Headhunter! This is Ratchet's sniper rifle. Tapping the button has him fire a shot from it straight forward. It has absurd range and it deals just as absurd damage. But as you can imagine, it requires some pinpoint accuracy to actually land shots with it, and the initial start lag can make it easy to see coming. You do have the option to hold the button down for this weapon as well though. Doing so will have Ratchet ready the Headhunter, but not fire it. He'll plant himself in place, or just fall if used in the air, and from there you can use the control stick to aim the rifle up or down. Then as soon as you let the button go, he'll take the shot. A red laser also appears from the tip of the rifle that signifies where the rifle is aiming, making it a little easier for you, and your opponents for that matter, to see exactly where you're aiming at. If that laser touches an opponent though, little circle marks will appear in random spots on their character's body, and if you are able to precisely snipe those spots, the shot fired will deal way more damage and a lot more knockback. The Headhunter overall might be a bit of a difficult weapon for some people to be able to use well, but if you just have a little bit of patience, a steady hand, and a cool head, that will make it a little easier to take off some heads. Now for the up special, this will have Clank utilize his jetpack function, activating his thrusters to shoot himself and Ratchet either straight up or straight forward. Using this will put the duo into freefall, however, if you continue holding the button down after activation, Clank will break out into a hover, slowly descending Ratchet so long as you keep the button held down. You can move left or right while hovering, but they will go into freefall as soon as the button is let go. If you use the horizontal thruster while on the ground though, this can be a great way to close the gap or to disengage, since it has very little end lag from doing so. You can use the horizontal thruster by quickly tapping left or right during the start lag after activation. Then finally, for Ratchet's down special, he utilizes his most dangerous and insulting weapon of all. He calls on the destructive powers of Mr. Zircon himself. Activating the special will have Mr. Zircon appear by Ratchet's side and stay by his side at all times, following him around. Mr. Zircon is a sentry bot. He'll fire at anything that he deems to be a target if they get too close. The shots he fires deal a decent amount of damage, but no hit stun. He also cannot be hit by attacks. He's invincible to everything. The only way Mr. Zircon will leave is when he runs out of ammo, which happens after he fires 20 shots, after which he gets bored and ditches you. You can summon him right back, but it should be noted that you're only able to summon Mr. Zircon up to 4 times per stock. So after the 4th use, you can't call on his support again until you're KO'd. Oh, and for those of you wondering, don't worry, he'll talk. A lot. I'd love to imagine what kind of insults and death threats he'd throw at specific characters, or even at Ratchet himself if you play poorly. Mr. Zircon is truly a force to be reckoned with. However, I hear in some far-off alternate universe, he becomes a peace-loving robot, one with a desire to kill hunger and thirst. So he built an outpost where anyone can go just to relax and revitalize themselves for the dangerous road ahead. This even includes outlaws, pirates, and of course, resistance members with the goal of taking down a power-hungry dictator. Rivet and Kit, Ratchet and Clank's alternate dimensional counterparts. In a universe where 2 fated heroes never met and evil would always win, Ratchet and Clank were accidentally sent to this universe. Clank met Rivet, who would help her grow compassion for camaraderie, and Ratchet would meet KT-7461, who he would nickname Kit, and help her find her courage and a desire for friendship. After Rivet and Kit finally met, things would get a little shaky between them after Rivet found out that Kit was the one who attacked her one night, leading to the loss of one of Rivet's arms. But after working together to finally take down the evil Emperor Nefarious, the two chose to join together to be the heroes that their universe needed. Just like in their debut game, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Rivet and Kit play identically to Ratchet & Clank. After all, they're pretty much the same people, they just grew up with different lives. As such, I found it only fitting that Rivet would make for the perfect Echo Fighter for Ratchet, though there will be a few key differences. For starters, Rivet will have a different animation for her down throw, since she doesn't wield an Omni Wrench, she uses a hammer. So instead of spinning around the foe to drill them into the ground, which I think would be kind of hard to do with a hammer, but that's just me, she would just smash their faces into the ground using her hammer, which directly references her own personal combo ender. It may look different, but it functions identically, dealing the same damage and it buries foes. Her other difference is her down special. She won't use Mr. Zircon. Like I said, he's a peace-loving robot in her universe. So instead, Rivet will call on the very odd Mr. Fungi, who behaves just like Mr. Zircon, he just has different voice lines. Something I should note as well, I am well aware that Kit, at least as of Rift Apart, never received Clank's kind of upgrades like the Helipack or the Jetpack, but since they are dimensional counterparts, I see no reason why she can't be given them at some point in the future. She's already able to transform into a giant Goliath of a warbot, so a few small upgrades should really be no issue. For Ratchet and Clank's final smash, they use the most powerful weapon in the known universe, always obtained through illegal means. Heck, just looking at it can get you sent to prison for life. It'll rip ya a new one! It's the Rhino! Now, there have been multiple Rhino models across the games, but there is a certain amount of consistency between most of them. Ratchet will pull the Rhino out and start firing, using it as a makeshift beam final smash. There are bullets that travel straight across the screen, dealing a ton of damage to opponents caught in it while it also slowly pushes them away. And at the same time, homing rockets will also fly out, targeting the closest opponent it can find to deal big damage and launch them away. So even if you avoid the bullet barrage, you still aren't safe. Then once it finishes ripping ya a new one, it ends with one giant burst that'll launch all foes caught in the barrage away. And as a side note, since this is the Rhino we're talking about, I feel it only right that it should have a chance to play certain musical pieces while it fires, like the 1812 Overture or Night on Bald Mountain. Now for Rivet's final smash, I think that she should be using the most powerful weapon of her universe, specifically the Rhino 8. This version of the Rhino is powerful enough to open a large portal to an alternate universe in the air, forcing a large random object to fall out of it and land on whatever poor sucker is below, exploding on impact to, as you can guess, rip ya a new one. For Smash, Rivet will do just that. She'll wield the Rhino 8 and an aiming reticle will appear on screen. Then after the allotted time, or if you press the special button again, Rivet will shoot into the spot and open a large portal there, causing one of many massive, or even not so massive, random things to quickly fall out. And as soon as that thing hits the stage or a very, very, very unlucky opponent, it will explode, dealing massive damage to all caught in it and blowing them away. And as funny as it would be, I don't think we'll be seeing any certain cameos falling from the portals. Sorry guys, maybe some other time. That said, I think it would be hilarious if of the random things to fall out, it could be stuff that comes from the worlds of fighters that already exist in Smash. I wonder how Bowser would feel about one of his own airships being dropped on his head. Now, before I move on, I will give a quick honorable mention to another Final Smash idea for Rivet that I'm sure some of you guys would have preferred, and that's Kit transforming into her Warbot mode and fighting alongside Rivet, or something along those lines. I don't mind the idea myself, and it could have worked, but sorry guys, I just love the Rhino way more. For Ratchet and Rivet's colors, they can both have all alternate costumes and be shown in the various types of suits that they've worn over time. Starting with Ratchet and Clank, their default attire shows Ratchet in his usual orange suit that we've seen him in starting with Tools of Destruction. His first costume can be the blue proto suit, the same worn in the 2016 reimagining of the first game, which also made a reappearance in Rift Apart as a cameo costume. Clank would be made green for this, as a reference to Captain Quark. His second costume could be his green commando suit from Going Commando. Clank could be blue here, in reference to the Proto-Pets. The third can show him in his silver Alpha Combat suit, worn in Up Your Arsenal. Clank could take on a black color, in reference to Secret Agent Clank, which also debuted in Up Your Arsenal. Here we have his maroon-colored Dread Zone armor, forcefully worn in Deadlocked. Clank here would be bright yellow, which can reference Big Al. Next is his black and orange Black Star armor, a set he can acquire in Tools of Destruction. Clank would be made red here. Then here's light blue and black armor, his Holoflux armor from A Crack in Time. Clank could be shown with this kind of dull maroon color, which could reference the Zoni as well as his father, Orvis. And finally, here's a brown suit, his Nebulox armor from Into the Nexus. Here, Clank could be a lightish purple, referencing the Nexus world. Now for Rivet, her default shows her in her usual attire and Kit in her usual yellow sheen. And for the costumes, Rivet can wear many different types of unlockable armor obtained throughout Rift Apart, with the first having Rivet in the white, orange, and black robot pirate armor. Kit for this color would be made blue, in reference to Pierre Lefer, the robot pirate whom Rivet is acquainted with. The second can be the mostly black and orange Carbonox Advanced armor, and Kit could be made orange herself. Then here's the green Lombax Praetorian armor, with Kit appearing in a red color. Next is the black and yellow Wasteland gear, with Kit in a lightish pink color that matches Gary in the Monks of Savali, the place where Kit initially exiled herself to, and the place where you actually obtain the Wasteland gear. Then here we have the pink Hacker armor, with Kit in green. Then here's the purple Scavenger armor, with Kit donning a dark navy. And finally, here's the full robot disguise armor, helmet included with this one, the same that we see Rivet wearing at the beginning of the game to hide amongst the robot populace of Nefarious City. Kit for this costume would also be a silver color herself, something closer to Clank. For the stage intros, Ratchet and Clank could be dropped off by the Aphelon, the Lombax ship they discovered on the Lombax planet Fastoon. Rivet and Kit could be dropped off by the Royal Star Cruiser that Rivet stole from Emperor Nefarious so that she can get around the galaxy undetected. For taunts, Ratchet's first can show him throw his wrench into the air, then catch it while he and Clank say a quote. This is an idle animation that we've seen in a few of their games. Their second can have Ratchet show off with a single-arm handstand, which was another idle animation that he had in the game Full Frontal Assault. And his final can fittingly have him pull out the weapon called the Taunter from the very first Ratchet and Clank game and use it to make obnoxious noises. Then for Rivet's taunts, her first can be just like Ratchet's first, having her throw her hammer into the air while she and Kit both say a quote. Her second can have her casually put her hammer on her shoulder, then say a confident yet cocky quote, with Kit chiming in sounding worried. And her final can show Rivet mockingly do a little finger wiggle gesture forward while she says a more demeaning quote, with Kit probably giggling afterward. This references a part of the secret handshake that Rivet has with the Morts of her home planet. And lastly, for the victory animations, Ratchet and Clank's first can recreate his gold bolt animation, specifically the one we see in Into the Nexus and Rift Apart, where he throws the bolt into the air, rolls it down his arm, then catches it. The second can have Ratchet and Clank both look excited, but Clank gets a little too into it and breaks into a dance with Ratchet just watching him. Once he sees Ratchet watching, Clank just laughs it off. I got this idea from a random little animation that we see in Going Commando when you collect one of the Hypnomatic parts. Their final victory animation can show the two waving to the crowd, then look over to each other. Then for Rivet and Kit's victory animations, their first can be Rivet's Gold Bolt collection animation, where she throws it into the air and catches it on her fingertip to spin it. Her second can be her victory animation from winning Zircon Jr.'s Battle Arena, showing her wave to the crowd, lifting her hammer into the air, then posing with it. And for their final, it could show Rivet riding in on a Speedle, then jumps off as she gets close to the camera and poses with her landing. Kit could also jump off of Rivet's back and land with her own pose at the same time as Rivet's pose. And that does it for What If Ratchet and Clank were in Smash with Rivet and Kit as their Echo Fighters. So, if you enjoyed what you saw and would like to see even more characters be given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to support the show, you can click the join button either below the video, the one on my main page, or the link in the description to become a sponsor for my channel. Doing so will get you access to my Discord server, channel emotes, and so much more. And of course, if you have a character that you want to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFan1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching!